All right, this is Justin. Not to poke the bear on this subject, but can you speak to your interpretation of Acts 10:11 through 16 in regards to someone justifying eating Levitical unclean things? All right, and the passage, let me just pull that up for you guys. This is in in Acts chapter 10. And we'll go here. All right, let me pull that up. 1 second. Almost got it. There we go. All right, cool. All right, so Peter, and he saw a heaven open and an object like a great sheet bound at the four corners descending and let down on the earth. And in it were all kinds of four-footed animals of the earth, wild beasts, creeping things, and birds of the air, stuff you're not supposed to eat, right? And a voice came to him saying, rise, Peter, kill and eat. Peter said, no, Lord, not so, right? For I have never eaten anything common or unclean. Well, that's a good word, Peter. And the voice spoke to him again the second time, right? What God has cleansed, you must not call common. This was done 3 times, and the object was taken up into heaven again. All right, now, here's the answer. We don't have to look very far for the answer on this one. So I hope you won't just take my word for it. I hope that you will see, or you can maybe share, if you're sharing this with somebody who is asking this question. I think that's probably more the case. Share this, and I hope you can just take them through it. Say, look, let's just look at this passage and see what it says. Okay. So Peter says, no way, Jose. God says, whatever I called, what God has cleansed, you must not call common. All right. This is done 3 times. Now, while Peter wondered within himself what this vision which he had seen meant, behold, the men who had been sent from Cornelius made inquiry for Simon's house and stood before the gate. Now, how many did he send? 3 guys, right? Behold, 3 men are seeking you. What kind of men? What kind of men? Well, these are the kind of guys that a good Jew would not hang out with. Okay. And I'm using that word purposefully. Give me a second here. All right. So let's let Peter, I want to do very little commentary here. I want Peter to explain this. All right. So here's Peter. He's now in Cornelius's house, and he says, you know how unlawful it is for a Jewish man to keep company with or go to one of another nation. Where does it say that in Scripture? It doesn't. It doesn't say you can't go visit other people. Look, let's take maybe a crude example, but let's take the donkey. The donkey, is that a clean animal or an unclean animal? Well, it's unclean, right? It's unclean. Can you touch the donkey? Yes. Of course you can touch the donkey. Can you eat the donkey? No. No, you can't eat the donkey, right? You're not supposed to eat the donkey. That's not good. But you can ride the donkey. It's a very powerful and necessary animal in the ancient world. That was your basic car back then, okay? That was your little moped to get around. That's what they used. That's, that was the basic truck, was the donkey to carry things, okay? So you just couldn't eat the donkey, but you could, in fact, touch the donkey, all right? So let's make that super duper clear, all right? Now, what does Peter say about this? God has shown me that I should not call any man common or unclean. Therefore, I came without objection because God showed me. How did God show Peter not to call any man common or unclean? He gave Peter a massive wake-up call in his dream, of course, where he sees this sheet with things that he would never touch. And God says, hey, now it's good, right? But Peter has the dream. He's the owner of the dream. He's the interpreter of the dream. I think we should go with what Peter tells us. Peter doesn't tell us that now he's talking about people or about animals or food. No, he's talking about people, right? I should not call any man common or unclean. That is the answer, and Peter himself tells us the answer. So I love it. We don't have to go very far to figure that out. Okay, let's go to another question. That was a great one. Thank you, Justin. This is another one from Justin. Could you please tell me if you would eat a gyro, however you want to pronounce that, from a restaurant that proclaimed its meat is halal? Wow, that's a good question. In the past, I have in the past, and then later I got convicted about that, so I didn't. And I would probably, all right, so I would probably stay away from it. Okay, that would probably be my gut reaction. is to not eat from a restaurant that proclaims its meat halal. All right. Now, I know it's kind of a tricky one because nobody said, hey, this was offered to a God, but the word halal does mean that it was blessed in the name of Allah. So, that's a little tricky. And, I think this is where you have to say, okay, Lord, guide me. This one is maybe this is a kind of a gray area. Maybe it's not. But, help show me what I have to do here. What do I have freedom and what don't I have freedom? Now, Paul tells us, I think very clearly, he's like, look, those things are nothing, right? These so-called false gods are nothing. And meat, so long as it's clean, right? But meat that has been offered to an idol, it didn't change. It didn't change that. Probably the real thing to understand is if you eating there would cause another brother to stumble, then you probably don't want to do that. All right. If it's just you yourself and you, and you go and you eat there and no one's concerned about it, I don't think it's probably a big deal. Okay. So again, it's a little bit of a gray area, in my opinion. I don't think you're going to get struck by lightning if you eat there. And I don't think you're going to necessarily cause a brother to stumble. But if it does become something where you're hanging out with another brother and he's like, man, I just could never eat halal meat because that was sacrificed to an idol. That is where Paul says, okay, then don't do it. All right. Because we don't want to cause that other brother to stumble if he's thinking about this. But Paul makes it very clear, and I agree with Paul, that, nothing substantially changed for that meat. It's still the same basic meat. And these so-called gods are, in fact, they are nothing when we get right down to it. All right. So that's a tough one. All right. Diana